We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Tuesday, June 2nd, here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Higher.
Great to be here today.
Have you also Cheska's with us.
Happy Tuesday, everyone!
Happy Tuesday!
Woo!
And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're now into the second day of the work week, and if you've stepped outside lately, you've probably noticed that it is starting to feel like summer. And as the temperatures rise, many people are also looking for ways to cool off indoors. And one surprising trend making a comeback lately is horror films. So today, I want to start off by asking, do you like scary movies, Higher?
Well, okay, so I used to be a big fan of horror movies when I was younger, but somewhere along the way, I kind of stopped actively seeking them out.
Oh, how come?
I think once I became an adult and started working full time, I just realized the real horror was right there in my everyday life.
Just living life.
Right.
That's quite funny.
But that said, I did
it's
watch
true.
Saimokji, yes, which has been getting a lot of buzz this year, and I really enjoyed it. Even though I don't watch horror films very often these days, it definitely left an impression on me. And also my favorite horror series has always been The Conjuring. I watched it every new release, and I really enjoyed seeing how all the stories connected within the same universe.
I think that kind of makes sense because I thought that movie was so scary.
Scary.
It was so scary, right? But then I know an older couple that watched it, and they're like, this is just, that's not scary at all. It's just
Right,
ghosts coming
true.
out of, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
They probably had more life experiences. There are a lot,
this is not
a lot scarier than a movie, yeah.
So what about you, Cheska? How do you feel about horror films?
So I'm really glad Hayul is on, and he loves scary films because I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I cannot do scary movies. I have a chicken heart, and once the soundtrack comes on, I'm out the door. I'm like, I'll see you after the movies. So
Right.
I cannot do it. But that being said, people like me are always interested in how people react to scary movies. So I do know people actually visit haunted houses, and summer is just a great season for a lot of scary movie teasers coming out. But also one thing that I noticed that is changing is previously the scary movies were almost like a test of endurance. It would be so scary that you kind of have to sit through it. But nowadays, I think young people are looking for like a combination of comedy and horror. And I think one of the ways that we reinterpret this is because we're so used to like short reels that people don't want to sit through a whole series of just being scared. So I think there's a little bit of trend that is going on, yeah.
Right, that's true. So it seems like the appeal isn't just being scared anymore, but sharing also the experience with others. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. Summer is a season when moviegoers flock to theaters for chilling horror films, a genre that becomes especially popular as the weather heats up. But these days, the fascination with fear is going beyond the screen, with more people seeking out immersive horror experiences inspired by movies and pop culture. Today on News Generation, we're taking a closer look at the growing trend of experiencing films in real life, the psychology behind it, famous movie pilgrimage spots here in Korea, and some film-related experiences we'd personally love to try ourselves. Just as we saw in a video for many fans, the movie experience doesn't end when the credits roll. And that trend seems especially noticeable in the horror genre. So how are people taking horror movie experience beyond the screen, Higher?
Well, actually, I think one of the biggest examples recently is absolutely Saimokji. So
Right.
after the movie was released, people just started visiting the real Saimokji Reservoir in Chungcheongnam-do Yesan late at night. Since it's both the filming location and the setting of a well-known local ghost story, the crowds became such a big story that long lines of cars started forming on nearby roads. Visitors were posting photos and videos of their own courage test on social media, turning the movie experience into something much more interactive. And it even earned the nickname 살리단길, a play on the movie's title, and 경리단길, one of Seoul's trendiest neighborhoods. In other words, it became a must-visit hotspot for movie fans. And the popularity got so intense that local authorities eventually had to restrict vehicle access after 6 p.m.
Wow.
Right, and
Intense.
introduced additional safety measures to manage the crowds.
Wow, it's so interesting to see so many people crowd around this reservoir.
Yes.
It's a commitment to drive all the way there.
It is truly a commitment just to get that scare.
Yes.
And it's not just physical locations that people are flocking to, actually. So what are some other ways audiences are like interacting with films, Jessica?
So this one was really interesting. So there is a Netflix drama movie that came out called 길이고. And right before it came out, Netflix very quietly released this app, because this movie is about an app where you make a wish and it actually comes through, but it kind of becomes like a death note and becomes a scary story. So this app was actually very quietly released, and people started going reactive and started downloading this app, and it actually surpassed 1 million downloads in just 2 weeks. And I think it is still #1 downloaded app on the App Store right now. And I actually Googled, and the app is actually still there.
Oh.
Yeah. And people were making comments like, oh, I can't delete this app. You know, there's a timer on. I don't know what to do. But I think this is one of the greatest marketing tools that they did. But it also shows that our generation is very, very responsive when it comes to ways to interact with the movie instead of just watching it passively. Yeah.
I guess when you love a film so much, you want to kind of experience it yourself. I feel like you're also a character in that film, so I can see why that is happening.
Yes.
So it is fascinating to see people turn movies into something they can actively take part in. And that raises a bigger question about what audiences are really looking for then. So why are people so eager to experience movies rather than just to simply watch them, Jessica?
So a behavioral scientist actually called our generation, quote, experience collectors. So as you mentioned before, I think it's not that we're less interested in the traditional discussion of like cinematography or how the movie was made, but now the focus is more on, okay, as an audience, we've seen the movie, what more can we create out of this? So I think experience help us to recreate and repackage the movie experience. So even after the credit rolls, like visiting 살목지 or like downloading the app makes us feel like we're still continuation of part of the story and the experience. And even like visiting these sites and being there, I think sort of makes us experience the movie on a different level. And in that way, I think our generation finds ways to personalize these experiences. Yeah.
Right, so that is quite an interesting shift that we are seeing from discussing the film itself to sharing your own experience of it. And that desire to participate seems to have an impact beyond social media as well. So how does this try and influence people's, I guess, spending and travel habits?
Well, I think a big part of it comes down to FOMO, the fear of missing out. So when everyone around you is talking about a movie and visiting the filming locations and posting about their experiences online, people just naturally just want to be part of it.
Right.
And that's what motivates them to set money on a movie ticket and join in, even when ticket prices are not exactly cheap. And I think another great example is 왕과 사는 남자, The King's Warden, which became the first film in 2 years to break the 10 million ticket mark. Fans now begin making pilgrimages to filming location like 청룡포 and 장릉 in 강원도 영월. Tourist numbers reportedly increased sixfold compared to the previous year, and some visitors even waited more than 2 hours just to take the ferry across.
Wow.
So I think it's a great example of what's known as screen tourism, where people now want to experience the places they've seen on screen for themselves.
Right. I've actually always, I think, been a huge fan of screen tourism because I think it's not just for films, but also dramas as well. I love visiting those sites. And actually, I have Yeongwon on my list, bucket list destinations to go to because they're so busy. Like you said. So now, maybe now it's been getting better. So it is remarkable how a film can transform an ordinary place into a tourist destination. And speaking of personal experiences, we wanted to bring the conversation closer to home. So we directly asked our viewers on the Arirang News YouTube channel, asking what they've done after watching a movie. And here's what the results showed. So according to a poll, more than half of respondents, 55% to be exact, said they had tried food or activities featured in a movie after watching it. Another 21% said they had visited filming locations and taken photos, while 9% had joined a fan community. The remaining 15% selected other, showing that people are finding all sorts of creative ways to extend their movie experience beyond the screen. So it seems most people aren't necessarily becoming hardcore fans, but they do enjoy bringing a small piece of the movie into their everyday lives. And honestly, audiences have always looked for ways to bring their favorite stories into the real world. So have we seen screen tourism or movie-inspired travel trends specifically in Korea before, Jessica?
I think the most popular one, actually, before even I go to the most popular one, I think this kind of trend has been going on internationally. Even before, a lot of Japan tourists came to Korea when a Korean drama was very popular. But I think one of the most popular movie is Parasite.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because 기생충 was such a global phenomenon. I feel like the staircase, the neighborhood that appeared in Mapogu, the stairs near Chahamun Tunnel, all these places became such a hot tourist spot. And even my friends from the States would ask me, like, are they real? Are the sites, real? Can we go visit? So I think this is one of the ways that show that, how movie and the reality and movie sort of blur that line. And I think it also shows the audience's desire to become a part of the movie as well, because it's not just the content, it becomes a part of an everyday life as well. And also, not just the filming location, but the food. Do you remember the 짜파구리?
Oh, yeah, of course.
the noodle, the instant noodle they ate. I think it became so popular that it became like a commercial brand, and they started exporting overseas.
It's amazing how something so niche can become so popular because of film.
I know, and if you think about it, every Korean knows 짜파구리 is such a staple,
Right.
sort of like a noodle, and it's becoming like a global sensation. It's quite amazing. Yeah.
Who would have thought? So it's fascinating how a movie can influence not only where people travel, but also what they eat and buy. So how else have audiences turned what they watch into real-world experiences, Hyun?
Well, I think another great example is Squid Game, which became a global phenomenon in 2021. So I think one of the biggest talking points from the series was absolutely the 달고나.
It's always the
right?
food.
Yes, the food. Where players had to very carefully carve shapes out of a traditional Korean sugar candy without breaking it. And as the show gained popularity, making and trying 달고나 became a trend around the world. So not only Koreans, but also international visitors wanted to experience it for themselves. And one dalgona vendor in Korea even said that daily sales jumped from fewer than 200 pieces to more than 500 after the show was released. So the trend went far beyond the candy itself. Squid Game experiences started popping up around the world, giving people a chance to try some of the games featured in the series, including 줄다리기 and 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다, which are tug of war and the famous red light, green light challenge. So it's another great example of how people don't just watch content anymore. Now they just want to step into it and experience it for themselves.
Right. This shows how the power of entertainment to influence everyday behavior and also even local businesses. I remember like they were selling 달고나 like on the streets, and there were lines of people lined up just to buy it.
Especially international travelers, right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's what was so cool about it. So to get a more personal, in-depth perspective on this phenomenon, we're going to talk to a film critic and professor, and that conversation will take place right after break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out Channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
To help us unpack this growing trend, we're joined by Jason, a film critic and assistant professor in the Office of International Affairs at Hanyang University. So hello, Professor. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me.
Right. So, Professor, is screen tourism a global trend, or do you think it's more unique to specifically Korea?
I mean, certainly over recent months, you've been talking about it, of course, with Samokji and the King's Warden. I think we've seen it kind of hit another level, which is interesting. And I've actually, as a Korean film fan, I've been visiting locations before. I went to the Memories of Murder locations and the famous tunnel at the end of the film, which is located down in Jinju. And also the house in the Wailing. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, yes, you do. I mean, I come from the UK, and I've been to one or two of the Harry Potter locations in Wiltshire, so which is where I'm from. But yes, in the United States, of course, New York City and elsewhere, it's not uncommon to kind of explore some of the famous kind of shooting locations. But I think in Korea, it's and you mentioned Parasite as well. yeah, we certainly see more of that over recent months and recent years, not least because of the popularity of Korean content.
You know, you mentioned something interesting. You know, people would visit these sites often, but it has sort of reached a new level. So what do you think the younger generation or our young generation is looking for most to get out of movie experience?
Well, the Salmokji kind of, yeah, that I'll call it phenomenon for
yeah.
amongst young people. I think, yeah, I think, you know, with horror films, it is very much about the experience. And I was lucky to see the film like 2 weeks before it was released. I saw it on Screen X. I was invited to a screening, and I kind of thought this movie is actually going to take off because it is really fun and it's just so immersive. And it was that opening weekend that I was seeing reports on social media of like fans going down to the reservoir. And you know what? It didn't surprise me. I mean, that's what film is. It's an experience. It's a collective experience. And, you know, with social media being so prominent, you know, amongst young people, I think they just wanted to kind of get a taste of the movie, like as an experience outside the screen. So I was very happy to see that happen. And of course, you know, you can't have too many people in one location. And so I think there were some safety concerns.
Thank you, Professor. My last question is how might audiences' desire to engage with movies beyond the screen shape the industry?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously seeing that at the moment, but I would add here at this point, I think with the Korean film industry, we're kind of seeing it come full circle in my view. I mean, Korean horror films were actually really popular in the 2000s. I'm thinking of movies like, you know, A Tale of Two Sisters, which up until Salmokji was, you know, one of the most popular, was the most popular horror film. And the idea was to kind of go into the theater because it was so, Korea's, you know, summer weather is so humid and hot. The idea is to go into the theater, cool down, and those chills would, you know, send something rather chilling down your spine, and it would just have that cool effect. And I think what's interesting about what's going on at the moment is we're seeing young people kind of going back to the theater, and that's what we were seeing in like the 2000s, you know, watching melodramas, watching horror films. And you know, it's young filmmakers. And I would note this is not just unique to Korea. We're seeing horror films doing well in the United States. Like last weekend, Obsession by a filmmaker in his mid-20s has generated $150 million on a budget of $1 million.
Wow.
And Backrooms as well, which is doing quite well here. Again with young people, that's generated over $100 million. That film, I went to see it last night. That director's 20 years of age. Is extraordinary. And these filmmakers are YouTubers, and they've you know garnered a following on social media, and Backrooms is based on a web series. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see young people come back to the theater. It's almost like the small screen is bringing them back into the cinema, which I think is quite ironic given where the discussion was, you know, a few months, a year ago, or even still, you know, the small screen is taking people away from the cinema, but actually maybe the opposite is happening.
I think that is one of the biggest concerns for people working in the film industry is how to bring people back to theaters, because so many people, it's not easy to watch, you know, on Netflix, but I think it's so interesting about how it's kind of interesting how that's what's bringing people back. And I think horror films, because they're so immersive, I think I personally like watching them in theaters. So hopefully we'll see more of that. So.
Sure, absolutely. The collective viewing experience is instrumental when it comes to a horror movie.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, Professor.
Well, thank you for having me. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So we just heard from a film critic about the rise of screen tourism, what drives it, and how it could shape the future of the movie industry. Now, let's make things a little more personal and talk about our own movie-inspired adventures. So what are some movie-related places you'd like to visit or experiences you'd like to try higher?
Well, actually, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan.
Me too!
With 3 Harry Potter?
Yes, join
Yeah,
the
we
club.
might all know that there's still one thing that I really want to do that I haven't had yet. which is the Harry Potter studio tour, where many of the original movie sets have been recreated. I'd really love to visit someday, but I have a feeling that I might experience something more powerful than magic there. The real magic would probably be watching my wallet just empty seconds at a time, right? It's too expensive there. Yeah, so
Just whiff and the money's gone.
true. But if you are looking for a more budget-friendly movie experience, then there's some good news for you. The second and last Wednesday of every month are designated as Culture Days, 문화가 있는 날 in Korea, when you can watch movies for just 10,000 won at theaters ranging from independent cinemas to multiplexes.
Ooh, that sounds cool. So what about you, Cheska?
I mean, he already took the Harry Potter answer, but I also think the Korean theater-going experience is so unique and special. So if anyone is traveling in Korea, I would highly recommend people to take a visit and go to the theater because it's such an interactive experience. Yeah.
Great. So whether you're visiting a filming location or trying a famous movie snack or just sticking to the safety of your couch, it seems movies are no longer ending when the credits roll. And audiences today are looking for ways to participate, not just observe. And it looks like that shift is changing the relationship between viewers and entertainment. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But with tomorrow being local election day here in Korea, News Generation will return on Thursday at 10:30 a.m. with more stories and discussions. Big thanks to Hire
Thank you for having me today.
for coming in, and also Cheska.
This is mine, thank you.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. And maybe your next vacation destination is already playing at a movie theater near you. We are
News Generation.